listening to The Goods on the Chronicles, Fables, and Yarns Network. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Tracy.
So we're back with another episode of our favorite holiday in Christmas movies. Today, which this is coming out on Christmas Eve, we are covering the absolute classic Christmas film, Home Alone. And this is absolutely my pick. I will take full credit or lack of credit or whatever. Yeah, responsibility. There we go. That's a good word. I'll take responsibility for this one. This one's on me. We actually just finished. Funny, we finished covering Christmas Vacation. This one was also written by John Hughes, directed by Christopher Columbus, one of those. And obviously the main rotating. It's obviously a Christmas movie. The main factor in the movie that causes everything to happen is it's the holidays. And the McAllister family's going on vacation to celebrate the holidays. Whole family's over, however many, was it 14 of them or something stupid like that? And they're off to vacation overseas, going abroad, and they leave Kevin at home.
Yep.
And don't realize it till they're on the plane. And then you have Joe Pesci and I think is it Daniel Stern? Daniel Stern.
Daniel Stern.
Playing the Harry and Marv playing the wet bandits who come and try to, rob from the house, which, by the way, they have to be in like the single most affluent neighborhood in Chicago. But that house is like, I didn't realize that until like I was an adult. That house is huge. Oh, bro, how much money do you make? Ship all those kids over to Paris.
I'm kidding.
Anyway, the wet bandits, try to rob the McAllister household, on Christmas, and Kevin, or Christmas Eve, and Kevin defends the house. There's a lot of slapstick in this, a lot of people getting, hurt and maimed and battered and
should be dead.
Yeah, one of my favorite YouTube videos is actually the doctors reviewing Home Alone and Home Alone 2. I think there's like two of them where they're literally sitting there like, that guy's dead, and it literally gives you like the body count of like how many Harrys and Marvs would be needed to get through Home Alone and Home Alone 2, and it's a lot. Mm-hmm. It's like 14. Yeah. It's like 14 of each or something like that. It's crazy. But yeah, so definitely heavy into the slapstick and people getting hurt. But at the end of the day, I think there's a couple pieces that are maybe a little bit more thought-provoking that kind of lost in the overall craziness of everything that's going on, which I think is kind of the movie's intention, right? For me, I think that Marley is a great character. That scene. So Kevin's been scared of this dude forever because there's like myths of him like, oh, he killed his kids or something like that. Yeah. It turns out obviously Marley, Christmas Carol reference Marley. But in this particular instance, he turns out he has a conversation heart to heart with Kevin in a church, and you find out he's there listening to his granddaughter sing, and he has never got to spend time with his granddaughter because he and his kid had a falling out, and they haven't talked anymore. And Kevin sits down and he goes, you should talk to your kid, like, because he's going through something there where he feels isolated from his family, and he, in this case, he like very much is. And that's what he tells him, just talk to him. Like, what's the worst that happens? And so to me that's the part, like when you see him looking out afterwards and seeing him with hugging his kid, and seeing his granddaughter and his kid's wife. To me, that's like, as much as you see that, as much as you tear up a little bit, when Somewhere in My Memory kicks in, because I should note the soundtrack was done by the Maestros, John Williams. And that song's a tearjerker. Great song. But you know, when that kicks in, that's really the part where I think there's like a ton of heart to the movie. You know, there's only a little bit of it, like it's a little bit, but and also I would say God, what was her name? Kate was the mom's name. Talking to, I don't remember who he played, but John Candy, the polka guy.
Candy.
Yep.
That's Polinsky.
Yeah, playing in the van on the ride home after she freaks out and tries to drive home. Just to be met there on the same day by the rest of the family. But anyway, I'm talking a lot. What do you have to say about Home Alone?
I really like the elements you've talked about. I like the heart. You know, Kevin and Marley, in a way, they really help each other. You know, they're both going through their own troubles and aren't sure how to handle things. But I also I like sort of the adventure part too. You know, this is Kevin's like a bratty little whiny kid at the beginning who can't do anything for himself, and you know, he goes out and he goes shopping and uses coupons and does his own laundry and, you know, does things that people do. And it's just kind of it's funny too, because he does silly things because he's never done any of these things before. You know, the iconic slapping his face thing with the aftershave.
With the aftershave, yeah.
Fun. Yeah. And then the mom, I mean, in pure mom fashion, saying, "No, I have to get home right now," which with all that she has to go through to try and get home on Christmas, you know, like you said, her family makes it like 5 minutes after she does. But her adventure was kind of interesting too. I really enjoyed the parts with John Candy, someone that I definitely miss, because he's just really funny. Yeah, I definitely, Home Alone is while I didn't technically pick it, it's definitely a pick for me too.
I think you picked on some great stuff there. But yeah, I'd miss John Candy as an actor for sure. Yeah, I like that. I like the point you picked up where he said, you know, Kevin gets to do things on his own. Not to, you know, I didn't necessarily mean to belittle Kevin's character, though I kind of should. Everybody in the beginning of the movie is just an absolute asshole. Like there is there's no one to feel good about at the beginning of this movie. You don't like any of them, including Kevin. Though you feel a bit more sympathetic to Kevin based on, you know, how you perceive the rest of the situation through Kevin's actions and Kevin's eyes. But yeah, no, everybody, like all the family members, all the aunts, uncles, everybody's just a dick. And it's tough, you know. And he kind of overcomes his fear, right? Like he goes down into the basement and, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, kids are scared of, the furnace, because it, you know, lights up red and he's like, oh my God. And he runs out. And it's, you know, overall, I think there's a growing experience, but, you know, he picks up most of the house afterwards, except for Buzz's room, which, you know, he destroys. But overall, I think it's I don't know if it's underrated. I think it's overrated for the wrong reasons. How about that?
Yeah. It was huge. I mean, when this came out, it was like huge.
Oh, so wasn't it like say, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I wouldn't say underrated, but it's a nice movie. It's got a lot of good elements in it. It's not just a I'd say similar to what we were saying about Christmas Vacation, is that there's a lot of sort of nice parts about it. You know, what Christmas is sort of what Christmas is about. You know, families and coming together. Families
fight sometimes. But that bit that you're talking about, I think is pretty accurate. That's why I think having issues trying to phrase it out appropriately. I think overrated for the wrong reasons is probably correct. Yeah. But you're right. That movie was, I think, like the biggest movie up until like, was it like Avatar that they've thrown it, or like Titanic or something like that? It was something like that. It was huge when it came out. Yeah. And overall, I think it has a lot of great parts to it. It's a definite watch if you want to see Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern get absolutely maimed by booby traps. And in ways that probably shouldn't be funny but are. And get a nice cathartic ending on the back end of it, where everything is mostly good again until Buzz finds his room. Fantastic. So it obviously gets a classic watch from me, and I'm presuming you're in the same boat.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Love it. This has been The Goods on the Chronicles, Fables, and Yarns Network. Again, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Tracy. Thanks for listening.